What if the World Cup is more than just the world's biggest football celebration? What if it is also a relentless pressure machine? Every 4 years, the world witnesses the bright side first. The flags, the songs, the packed stadiums, the dazzling goals, and the captain lifting the trophy into the lights. But behind that vibrant facade lies another story, a tale of countries refusing to play, a saga of wars interrupting the tournament, a chronicle of young players bearing the weight of millions, a narrative steeped in scandal, pressure, tragedy. This is not merely a story of who won the World Cup. That part can be found anywhere. This is the tale of what the World Cup does to people when the entire world is watching. To grasp this, we must journey back to a time before the World Cup even existed. In 1872, England and Scotland clashed in the first official international football match. No colossal television cameras, no global headlines, no modern stadium lights. Just 2 teams. The match ended without goals, perhaps boring by today's standards. Yet, that was not the point. 2 nations agreed to meet on the football field and compete through sport. This small notion changed everything. Football could travel across borders, allowing nations to face each other on the pitch rather than in conflict. More countries wanted to play, and more people yearned to watch. Football spread from Britain to Europe, then to South America. By the 1920s, football had woven itself into the fabric of the Olympic Games. However, FIFA President Jules Rimet envisioned something grander. Not just a mere part of the Olympics, football needed its own world championship. The idea was beautiful. Countries would unite through sport, and the world would rally around one game. Yet, from the outset, the inaugural tournament took place in Uruguay in 1930. Today, this marks the beginning of a grand tradition. But back then, it was fraught with risk. Many European countries hesitated to travel across the ocean. The ship journey was long, and costs were high. The world faced serious economic challenges. Some teams did not participate, others withdrew. Egypt planned to join, but could not arrive due to travel issues. Thus, the first World Cup. This is the first hidden truth. A tournament about unity shaped by money, distance, and who had the power to appear. Uruguay emerged as the first champions, proving that football could transcend mere games. But almost immediately, politics infiltrated the narrative. Some nations opted out of subsequent tournaments. Uruguay boycotted the 1934 event, upset that many European nations had. Argentina and Uruguay also stayed away, when the tournament returned to Europe rather than South America. These were not merely sporting decisions. They highlighted the World Cup as a stage for pride, disagreement, and global tension. Then came the cruel reality war. There was no World Cup in 1942 or 1946. The World Cup, which feels larger than life, remains tethered to history. When the world shatters, football shatters with it. When the tournament returned in 1950, Brazil hosted, believing this would be their moment. The stadium brimmed with anticipation. The nation was ready to celebrate. But Uruguay dashed their dreams, defeating Brazil at home. Silent, the darkest aspect was not merely the loss. It lay in the expectations placed on players before the match began. The public had envisioned victory. The nation had prepared for celebration. When the ending turned sour, the disappointment morphed into national agony. That is the power of the World Cup. It transforms a football match. Then came the television age. By the 1950s, more people could watch the tournament from afar. The World Cup was no longer only for those inside the stadium. Every mistake, every tear, every celebration crossed borders. This newfound visibility made players more famous, but also intensified the pressure. Pelé was just 17 when he became a global star. A seemingly beautiful miracle, a young boy, yet another side lingered. The World Cup could turn a teenager into a symbol before he was even fully grown. The world often does this, recognizing talent and imposing expectations. Brazil's beautiful football brought joy. With Pelé, Garrincha, and legendary teams crafting football as art. But even beauty bore a burden. A nation known for the World Cup continued to expand, with more nations seeking representation. Yet, some regions fought harder just to be recognized. Africa and Asia were not always accorded the same space as Europe and South America. Over time, the tournament opened more doors as the world changed. Countries demanded acknowledgement, and football could no longer. Then arrived one of the most intricate moments in football history. Mexico, 1986, and Diego Maradona. The world recalls the beauty of his impossible dribble, how he seemed to bend the match with his skill, but it also remembers the handball, a moment both against the rules and pure genius. These moments unfolded in a single match, from a single player on the same. Maradona's story is complex, emblematic of the World Cup's ability to present imperfect heroes. It offers figures who are brilliant yet flawed, stirring both cheers and arguments in the same breath. This discomfort is honest. Under pressure, people do not always achieve perfection. Sometime in 1994, the World Cup arrived in the United States, becoming grander in attention and attendance. Vast stadiums, global excitement, football trying to flourish in a nation where it wasn't the top sport. However, that tournament also bore one of the darkest memories in World Cup history. Andrés Escobar of Colombia scored an own goal. Upon returning home, he was killed. This is no simple drama. It is a tragedy. It reveals the dangers when football intertwines with money, fear, anger, and extreme national disappointment. A mistake on the field should never cost a human life, reminding us how perilous expectations become when we forget that players are human, not symbols. The World Cup creates heroes, yet it can also make individuals bear burdens no one should carry alone. In 1998, France triumphed at home, and Zidane became a national icon. Yet, even that tale cast a shadow. Ronaldo Nazario, one of the greatest players, suffered a health scare before the final and could not perform at his best. Behind the match lay a young 8 years later, Zidane himself became a symbol of pressure during his final World Cup match in 2006. The perfect ending seemed within reach, a legend, a final, a last chance. Yet, he lost control. One headbutt, one red card, one moment replayed ad infinitum. For years, Zidane epitomized elegance and composure. But in that instant, the world witnessed the fragility of even legends. Fame does not erase. The modern era dawned, where football became increasingly commercialized, expensive, and governed by technology. In 2010, South Africa hosted the first World Cup on the African continent, a historic and emotional occasion. It introduced the world to new sounds and atmospheres, a reminder that football transcended. Yet the modern World Cup also evolved into a mega event. Stadiums, sponsors, broadcasting rights, national branding, tourism, security, politics, and money all became interwoven in the same machine. By 2014, Brazil hosted once more, aspiring for a joyous conclusion at home. Instead, the nation endured one of the most painful collapses. The shock of the result was profound, but the deeper story lay in the pressure. Brazil did not enter the tournament merely as a team. It carried the weight of history, expectation, and the need to heal old wounds. When that dream crumbled, it transcended a mere sporting loss. It felt public, It felt national, and it resonated emotionally. In 2018, technology fully integrated into the narrative. VAR emerged, allowing referees to review actions and alter decisions. Some hailed this as progress, claiming it made football fairer, while others felt it chilled the game. The world craved perfection, but football has always thrived on human imperfection. Missed calls, debates, mistakes, moments of anger, and luck all contributed to the sport's drama and then arrived Qatar 2022, a first for the Middle East, played in winter. On screen, everything appeared bright and modern, a spectacle watched by the globe. But behind the dazzling lights, this World Cup also posed tough questions. What does it cost to create such a grand dream? How many labor behind the scenes before the first whistle? When a nation hosts the world's biggest tournament, these queries did not diminish the beauty of the games. Yet they illustrated how deeply the World Cup had transformed. It had morphed into a global stage where money, reputation, image, power, and sport coalesced under the same lights. At the center of this stage stood Lionel Messi, shadowed by the World Cup for years. He had almost everything, but this trophy remained elusive. In Qatar, he finally lifted it. The world celebrated the happy ending, yet behind that joy lay the immense weight he had carried for so long. Every prior failure had been scrutinized, every comparison repeated, every tournament amplifying the pressure. This is the essence of the World Cup. Now, as the tournament approaches 2026, hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada, it will expand to 48 teams. On the surface, this signals more opportunity, more nations, more players, more fans. Yet it also translates to more matches, more money, more attention, more pressure, and a large. This leads to a critical question. How immense can a dream become before it becomes a burden? The World Cup is breathtaking, yet it is not innocent. It unites people, but it also highlights political tensions. It births legends, but it can also shatter them. It offers smaller nations visibility, yet it transforms players into symbols before they are ready. It exalts unity, yet is shaped, but perhaps that is why the world cannot turn away. The World Cup is flawed and human. It embodies joy and shame, beauty and pressure, hope and heartbreak. For anyone learning English, pursuing a dream, or grappling with pressure in life, this story imparts a vital lesson. Do not allow a single moment to define your entire existence. Do not let others turn your dream into a burden. And never forget that behind every public failure lies a private individual carrying fear. The World Cup teaches us that passion is powerful. Yet, passion without kindness can morph into cruelty. So, the next time the world watches a player falter, fall, cry, or lose, consider not just the question, why did he fail? But rather,